Hi everyone, how's it going? Me, Alexei, and this is the infinite pool of experience and awareness. And this is 5 books, along with a book of poetry and some philosophical discussions. And I'm just doing a quick, very, very quick walkthrough. It's 432 pages, so very quick. All right. Um, Basically, we start with your influence in space, and we go over the evolution of the human senses. We talk about evolving on Earth, evolving in the solar system, and evolving in the expanding universe. Then we talk about the limitations of our senses, as well as limitations of the medians that we are attuned to. But at least we're smarter than worms, but we're not as smart as a theoretical alien. And then there's this thing called the Doppler effect, and we go over the Doppler effect. And we say that the speed of light, based off of the evolution there, is more of a limitation of human perception rather than a limitation of reality. We go into much more detail, but you get what I'm saying. And so basically you realize that space prepares itself before matter can manifest. And so then we talk about, theoretically, well, hey, gravity, people always talk about gravity comes from below, so let's just say gravity comes from above. And then we talk about all the stars in the universe and how they have electromagnetic energy, which has momentum. So a new definition of gravity. And then we talk about wave nature. And then we see basically, when you talk about canceling gravity based off wave nature, well, you're probably going to end up canceling the matter, which leads into the light state, right? The liquid light state of the universe. So then basically we talk about the liquid light state universe. We talk about how you really don't move through space, you more manifest through space, and so your body's more like an easy user interface, right? And you have an electromagnetic dance going on with the universe. And so then we talk about wave nature again, and how you can actually cancel matter from manifesting. If you had the manifestation tables, you could just use the opposite energy and cancel the matter from manifesting. And along with that, you would want the local sky flats, right? So then we also talk about teleportation and levitation based off of the shifting of the nodes using essentially electrogravitics, but also gravitational lensing and geometric shapes. And then we talk about the harmony of zero. So we turn the light state into a square. We give it a value x. We say, hey, it's x inside, x outside. And you can continue to divide your square into structures that are harmonious with the universe. So that gives you the magic sphere. Personal implications about that is that your body has a golden spot. So then we introduce the mind-body-spirit diagram, which talks about the pacing nature of outside thoughts, wants, don't wants, assumptions, and expectations, and how they create new nodes of manifestation for your body, right? And so you'll have a path to and from your golden spot as thoughts dissolve away from it. Emitters and receivers, time dampeners, manifestation potentials, and gravity. So based off of the light state potentials, you could say that you literally get a spiritual gravity and a conscious gravity that are created within the light state of the universe. And so from that you can equate conscious force. And then we talk about the size of consciousness based off the theoretically the longest wave that can exist within human consciousness. We end up finding out that it's 1 × 10⁷ meters. Then we go into spirit fields and calculating spiritual gravity, and how they represent a sort of timeline, right? They'll pull you into another timeline, this density, this spiritual density, you could say. And so you develop mind, body, spirit technologies. And then we realize from that we are actually orbiting a crystal of time, right? And so then here we go into the crystal of time, where we see that there's habitable zones for human consciousness that are related to acceleration towards center at light speed. But I guess before we do that, we analyze the evolution of sensory evolution once more. We go into more detail on that. And then we basically literally say, if you think the speed of light is a limitation, then you don't understand the evolution of the human body. Like that's, right? To say that is all would be not to not understand how humans have been evolving. So then we go into the crystal of time model, which would show that the Big Bang was the moment when the universe collided with time, and then it fell into the habitable zone based off the subatomic Goldilocks, which is related to acceleration towards center at light speed. From that you get rings of perception based off overlapping nodes. And that leads into the spiral of perception, where we can actually perceive matter. And based on that, you get the concept of conscious preparation, space crunching, and shell jumping in relation to the magic sphere and the crystal of time, right? And we talk about how you can potentially, jump shells through the harmonization of your magic sphere. And so that basically does, we talk about a couple more things, and we say that at the end, our most advanced sense would be that of love, or our sense of harmony, right? It's our sense of synchronization would be our most advanced sense at this point. And so then it goes into time atom, where we, using the crystal of time and liquid light state universe and your influence in space, we say, hey, there's this habitable zone of perception, and well, maybe there's a table of universes, right? So we create, very theoretically, we say, hey, there's a table of universes, and we're going to create a table of time atoms. So we talk about the TA1, the TA2, the TA3, TA4, 5, 6, how time atoms would pack as crystalline structures. Examples of, pyrite related to ocean life. You go into clusters of consciousness, but then we start talking about the altered states of consciousness, and we see that the conscious harmonics are really what determine which dimension or experience you're undergoing, right? And so using the habitable zones, knowing that acceleration needs to be equal to the speed of light, and towards center, you can get the longest wave, which is the delta wave, calculate the theoretical diameter, and well, hey, that matched the longest standing wave perceivable as determined by a liquid light state. So you can create the table of universes, where each one of your conscious harmonics is related to an orbital distance and rate. So from that you can theorize on the time atom 6, the time atom 7, all the different time atoms. And you can see how your magic sphere can harmonize to create those higher harmonics of consciousness. So from that you can create cloud technologies that literally warp space-time to make the smaller or bigger rings of perception fall within your natural state. Excuse me. So then you see there's time dilations associated with each one of those. You get your interdimensional telescope. You can find natural portals to other dimensions. And then we see basically that light state harmony at the moment of conscious shift will determine your next experience. And that takes us into the 5th dimension. All right? And so from here we take a closer look at space preparation and conscious crunching, and we see that if you have a singular field of energy and you're accelerating towards the center at light speed, well, you would see that half your matter is coming from the inside and half the matter is coming from the outside. You would have this warping of space-time. Your perceivable universe is being magnified as you orbit, because it's all about your accelerative reference frame. So literally, reality is being stretched into existence as we orbit. And so when you go into the size of experience, you realize that our entire universal experience is in a 25-mile sphere around the center of time. That's the beta waking state. And from that, you can go into the complex, that's the layers of reality, essentially. Our waking state's at a 25-mile sphere. So then you go into the complexity of experience based off your conscious harmonics, and you can analyze your magic sphere, essentially. So if delta has 1 bit, for every 1 delta wave, there's 64 thetas, and then there's 64 times 64. So basically it goes up by factors of 64. And you see that our actual conscious experience now is created by the lights coming from the inner and outer rings of perception, right? So as you go in towards the center, you would have faster and faster orbits, and as you go out, you would have slower orbits. But all of those add to create, a field of energy, and then we have the tuning of our conscious antenna, right? And so that basically, whatever harmonic your consciousness is tuned to is which layer you will be perceiving. So then we see that consciousness forms in black holes. E is greater than mc squared. That alien was right earlier on. And that's because if you look at the tangential velocity, so E equals mc squared does not have anything to do with like tangential motion. So just by including tangential motion alone, you get plus energy. And so you see typical energy is 1/2 mv squared. But if A is equal to C, right, and 2 pi r over t is equal to d and t or whatever, then basically you can say that E equals 1/2 mcr for the tangential motion. And then when you relate that to your mind-body-spirit diagrams, that's the energy associated with the synchronization of your light state. So then you see there's an evolution of consciousness as the universe drifts towards center, based off of gaining the denser harmonics, because a conscious being wouldn't be tuned to this flow of space if it had never existed there, right? So conscious beings flows of space need to exist before the conscious being will be tuned to it. So the next experience coming into human experience is the Aliverse, or omega wave. And then we go into the daily orbit of consciousness through density, and we talk about the delta wave, the beta, alpha, then how that relates to the ascension through time, essentially, the silver spot, and then we talk about quantum entanglement, interdimensional geometry, so how to make interdimensional geometries that will effectively guide the fluid of time. And then we realize, well, hey, because we're in this kind of like this flattened existence almost, well, magic squares do have a huge effect. And so talk about just magic squares and how they make perfect vortexes. And then you can continue to divide the magic square upon itself to where you can almost have infinite numbers of squares within itself and get infinite creations. That's literally what's going on with the magic square. Those are all related to a factor of 2 raised to the n, which is the same factor that your consciousness is at, right? So literally, this is the factor of human consciousness and the relationship to all manifestations, 2 to the n. So then that goes into the concept of stacking squares, creating an electromagnetically powered square, and how basically we all come from one giant vortex, and from that we see the harmonization of each individual's. So basically, we have a better understanding of how a singular energy can create all particles, waves, thoughts, conscious relationships, and more. We're all unique individuals, but we harmonize as one. And then here's 19 poems that I wrote that came from all this, basically. They're more like philosophical, you could say. So here's one on instant gratification, one about how, babies, how we could treat them. Here's something about death, right? And then the ones that I actually like, one of the 2 ones I like the most are doubt and faith. I'll read these 2 real quick. So this one's called Doubt. The man who doubts has nowhere to go. He sits and pouts and denies his show. It will never work. That could never happen. His motto is defeated and his vision depleted. The cloud of doubt does blind, even with the most brilliant of mind. You will tumble and toil, which can make your blood boil. The angry, fearful man, all filled with doubt, he looks to the past and regrets his last route. Nothing is accomplished, even when the deeds are done. He dreams and wishes it was sung by another one. This man is pathetic and helps no one be grand. However, this man is a man, part of the master plan. So let's be nice and help our friend, because we all have heart, and that's the trend. And then this would be the counterpart, faith. A man with faith will always win. With hope and glory, he's proud of his story. Anything is possible. It will work if we try. His motto is that's great and his vision so high. Faith will awaken and allow you to see. You will triumph and fly and truly be happy. A faithful man, all filled with cheer. He looks to the future and makes ways to be safe. Every action a victory, even if he did not succeed. He's glad that he tried and learned something indeed. This man is amazing and helps others be grand. However, this man is a man and part of the master plan. So be careful to glorify, for he is simply a man, and we were all created equal by the same glorious hand. And then, so there's one on space preparation, recycling, being a rock star. And then this whole section is philosophical implications. This is thinking with the universe, basically talking about the universal consciousness and how you can develop skills in order to connect with the universal mind. This section I call a shift in natural selection, and it talks about how the focus of human mate selection has shifted towards more of a artificial and man-made growth, which ultimately will only, have us drift outwards in the crystal time model, and basically we will never gain higher senses with that type of mate selection or move forward in life. So then basically, because it's artificial, like the person with the most money is the most fit to survive. That's really not good for evolution. But then you have dreaming at light speed, talking about basically how your consciousness is, in a different density when you're dreaming, and so you have time dilations associated with that. And then a universal goal talks about the universe as if it's a alive and conscious being, and what we could potentially be as part of it. And what I think is really cool is when you see that our entire conscious experience is coming in from, you could say, a black hole. Like, we are in a black hole, and all the matter that came in during the moment of the Big Bang was when a ball of energy fell into the habitable zone of perception. And so that's like a glob of energy falling into a black hole. But what we see in our universe is globs of energy falling into black holes like galactic centers, right? And so it's like you can think of it as like the universe, our universe came from a lake, and we're in a river that's then branching out into these branches of a river in a way. And so it's like you can see a structure is growing. And so here we just say, with our new understanding of the infinite pool of experience and awareness, we may see that our universe is blossoming like a flower into the sixth dimension. Consider the fractal nature of a blossoming flower. There's a center bud and petals extend from. Our entire universe or experience is the result of energy falling into a black hole within the sixth dimension. As new conscious experiences are formed at every galactic center within our experience, we see we are part of a greater being growing into the sixth dimension of experience. Do flowers not grow towards the sun? Do our galactic centers not point or give hint towards a greater sun within the sixth dimension? I leave you to ponder. So that's basically the infinite pool of experience and awareness. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So a lot of information here, and I hope you guys enjoyed that quick walkthrough. I know it's probably pretty brutal, but